How's it going, everybody? With Week 15 in the NFL in the books, we're starting to see teams clinch playoff spots and teams get eliminated. So I wanted to break down the AFC. We've done 9 teams that we're going through, and I'm giving you my opinion on who could be a real contender in the AFC and make it to the Super Bowl, and who do I think is really just a pretender. So the 9 teams that we're going to be looking at in the AFC East, it's the Patriots and the Bills. In the North, it's the Steelers and the Ravens. In the South, it's the Jaguars, Colts, and Texans. And in the West, it's the Broncos and the Chargers. Okay, and we're going to start in the AFC East with the New England Patriots, who are currently 11-3. Of course, we saw that long winning streak come to an end this past weekend after being up 21-0 against the Bills. They end up losing to the Bills. I think my main strength with the Patriots is their ability to get up early in the first half and then sort of maintain that throughout the whole game. Now, I know they lost to Buffalo after they were up 21-0, but in week after week, we saw this with the Giants, we saw this with the Titans, we saw this time and time again. I think even with the Falcons, they were up big early, is that we're seeing them go up early and then not really just lay down. They're not scoring and like blowing out teams. I guess in some instances they are, but they're most of the time just maintaining the lead. And I think that's really important for playoff contenders. And I think that's why they are playoff contenders, because we haven't really seen them play in close games. I think Buffalo and Tampa Bay, so there were a couple instances of that, but they're not like the Denver Broncos every single week playing in these one-score games. They are a contender, in my opinion. A weakness with them, though, is if these guys can't get back healthy, these offensive linemen, Will Campbell and Jared Wilson, Milton Williams is still not back. If these guys could continue to stay on the sideline and not be able to contribute when they're expected to contribute around Week 18, around round 1 of the playoffs, I think these injuries are really going to start to catch up with New England, and it's going to be the reason why they can't go far in the playoffs. Okay, and just staying in the AFC East with the Buffalo Bills, they're starting to pick up steam a little bit now. They're 10-4. They've won 3 in a row. 3 weeks ago, they beat the Steelers. 2 weeks ago, they beat the Bengals. This past week, that 21-point deficit, they're able to come all the way back and beat the Patriots and stay alive a little bit here in the AFC East. My main strength with the Bills is they have the best player left on the field in the AFC. That is Josh Allen. You know, with Lamar Jackson sort of on the fence if he's going to make the playoffs or not. Joe Burrow and the Bengals are already out. Mahomes is already out for the season. Josh Allen is the only guy that's really been this far, other than, I guess, Aaron Rodgers. But, I mean, currently today, like, the guy, it's Josh Allen. And we've seen it. I mean, these past couple weeks, he's starting to look like he could win it, but another MVP is back-to-back. Second in a row. I don't think you should win it, but that's another story. I think that's the main strength, is that they have the best player left in the field. My main weakness, though, and the only reason why I'm going to call the Bills contenders, but the only reason why I could see them falter and not make the Super Bowl this year is their wide receiver play. Khalil Shakir is a good wide receiver, but is he a wide receiver one on a Super Bowl winning team? Keon Coleman, he's been a healthy scratch like every other week. I just don't know if I know that they don't have Stephon Diggs, and this was a couple years ago, but the moves that they didn't make at the trade deadline or in free agency when they lost, even Matt Hollins, they lost this past year, who isn't a wide receiver one either. But I think Khalil Shakir is a good wide receiver. Like, he'd be the best wide receiver too, but I don't really think he's a good wide receiver one, and I think that wide receiver play could hurt the Bills come January, come AFC Championship divisional round. I think that production from that position could hurt them. But I do still consider the Bills AFC contenders. Now moving to the AFC North, we have the Steelers and the Ravens. Both teams started the season in opposite directions. Steelers started off pretty hot. Ravens started off pretty cold. Then in the past month, Steelers started to cool off a little bit. Ravens started to heat up. And then that big matchup between the two, 2 weeks ago maybe, was Steelers versus Ravens. Steelers actually beat them after that controversial non-touchdown call on Isaiah Likely. But I think the Steelers are in the prime position to win the AFC North here. Now, the Ravens got a big must-win game this past week, but they still have 2 more tough games. They still have to play the Packers and the Patriots. Steelers' schedule is a little bit easier, and of course, they're going to play each other on Week 18. I think if they even get there, and if that game is meaningful in Week 18, I think the Steelers are going to beat them. I think the Steelers are going to make the playoffs and win the AFC North. I think the Ravens aren't even going to make the playoffs, so they're going to be my pretenders. And as for the Steelers, they do have Aaron Rodgers, and I'm starting to like this castaway, these cast-off names that Rodgers was bringing up in their presser. What was it, yesterday with Adam Thielen, Marquez Valdes-Scantling? These guys that have produced earlier in their career, but maybe could have one last good game in them. Someone said that maybe if they win a playoff game, they could somehow make the Super Bowl. I don't know. I think at some point this playoff drought, these playoff winning droughts, it's going to have to end for the Steelers. They've lost so many times in the first round now. This could be the year in a wide open AFC that they finally get over the hump and make it to at least the divisional round, but I'm still considering them pretenders. I don't think they're going to have a real spark to actually win or make the Super Bowl. So North, Ravens, Steelers, I'm both doctoring them as pretenders. And next up, this is our biggest division here. This is the AFC South. If I told you a month ago that the Colts would be in third place and have lost 4 in a row, the Texans would win 6 in a row at 9-5, and the Jaguars would be winners of 5 in a row and be 10-4, I don't think you'd believe me, especially after the Colts traded for Sauce Gardner at the trade deadline. I thought the Colts were going to make the Super Bowl. I thought that was their chips in the middle move. But, injuries happen. But I think even if Daniel Jones didn't get hurt, the Colts have a really tough schedule down the stretch here. They still have to play the 49ers, they still have to play the Jaguars, and they still have to play the Texans. So this could actually shake out in their favor that they could maybe make the playoffs. But with Phillip Rivers under center, and, they've just been playing a lot more differently. They're not really able to put up points on the board like they were to start the year. I think the Colts are going to miss out. I think the Colts are pretenders. As for the Jaguars and the Texans, I have them both as contenders in the AFC, but I'm a little bit iffy. I think I would probably put the Bills and the Patriots over both of them. They both have amazing defenses, and I think their defense is going to be the story that could get them upsets in the playoffs. Texans' defense has been absolutely lights out. Jaguars' run defense has been really good too. So then the story starts to become their offense. Whose offense do I trust more? I think it's got to be the Jaguars, led by the former offensive coordinator of the Buccaneers, Liam Cohen, Duval. They finally have Trevor Lawrence playing at the level that they wanted him to be playing at when they originally drafted him with the number 1 overall pick. ETN starting to get involved. If they could get Hunter back, this offense could be dangerous. They put up 40-something points against the Jets this past week. I know it's the Jets, but as for the Texans, it seemed like that C.J. Stroud getting hurt was kind of the offensive jump that they needed. They put Davis Mills in, and they started winning, and now C.J. Stroud came back in, and now the offense is finally where they want to be. They started the season, in some of those games that they lost, they literally would have won if they could just score at least one more touchdown. They lost some really close games. They were low scoring. Their defense kept them in the game, but their offense wasn't able to actually win the game for them. So Texans, I think the Texans, other than the Denver Broncos, I think the Texans are going to be the toughest team to eliminate in the AFC. And the Jaguars, I think it's going to be interesting to see how they play in the playoffs. They haven't been there in a couple of years, and when they were last there, they got eliminated by the Chiefs. So, sort of skeptical on how they could play in the playoffs. Again, it was to the Super Bowl eventual winning Chiefs. But I think that both these teams, their defense is going to be the reason why they could be contenders in the AFC. A wide open AFC. It wouldn't surprise me if either of these teams made the AFC Championship. And lastly, we move to the AFC West. Broncos and Chargers. We're not talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, so don't even think about it. Broncos are 12-2. They're the only team in the AFC to clinch a playoff spot. I think a lot of people are starting to flip-flop now on their opinions of the Broncos. They were saying, they're just getting lucky in these one-score games. They almost lost to the Giants. We don't have to consider them real contenders. But now it's starting to shift a little bit to, this team actually can win these one-score games. That is dangerous in the NFL. The most dangerous stat in the NFL, it's not offense, it's not defense, it's wins. Can you win these games no matter the circumstance? Denver is doing that, led by Sean Payton and Bo Nix. Those guys are both winners, and in my opinion, they're going to be the toughest team to eliminate in the AFC. And for that reason, the Denver Broncos are contenders, in my opinion. And lastly, rounding out this video is the Los Angeles Chargers. And I got to give credit where credit's due to Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert broke his non-throwing hand, and he's still playing. The injuries have not really caught up to them yet on that offensive line yet. I think if Brandon Staley was leading this team, I think they would have been further to the middle of the pack with the Colts and the Ravens fighting for that 7th spot. But you got to give credit to the Chargers. They're staying above water at 10-4. I do think that they're going to make the playoffs, but my one falter with them is Justin Herbert in his 2 playoff appearances so far has been an absolute shell of himself. We saw them 3 years ago blow that lead to the Jaguars. Last season looked absolutely flat against the Texans, dropped that game too. He's yet to look good in a playoff game. He's yet to win a playoff game. So that question mark is the only reason why I have the Chargers as pretenders in the AFC. How do you think I did? That was my AFC pretenders and contenders. Coming down the stretch here, I have the Patriots, Bills, Jaguars, Texans, and Broncos as contenders. But if we wanted to chop down that list even more, I'd probably cut it down to just three. I would say Patriots, Bills, and Broncos. The rest, sort of iffy, but definitely pretenders would be Steelers, Ravens, Chargers, and the Colts. Let me know how you think I did, and that's my video.